Okay, hey everyone. This is Dave. Hi. Arch recording me, which is why the table looks a little bit more of a mess than normal because we've been play testing and making sure that everything for Divine Wrath and all the Catharsis Sagas 3 and 4 are as good as we possibly can make them. So I'm going to walk you through 6 of our different boss decks. And then during a later update, Art's going to walk you through all of the different characters that we have so far. We still have a little bit more work to do on all of these, but they're nearing their final form. So let's get into this. First, I'm going to jump us down up here. We have our Ice Elf Lich. So in our world, the elves they adapt to the different environments that they're in, and the water elves and split up. The women went to the icy north, and all the men are still in the ocean. Which is a little bit unfortunate for the men, but such is life. Now, one of the women has decided to go off on her own, and since the elves have all adapted to their environment, they wander around, do whatever they want to, totally fine, don't need to worry really about subsistence on things. So this one particular elf has decided that undead is the way that she wants to go and enjoy her life. So you're going to be going through her deck, but it's not like a normal deck. Every single turn, you will be drawing new monsters as undead constantly are swarming you. So wave after wave after wave. But Art really likes the good old MMORPGs, and so we are...
Like Zombie Rush, like the old Call of Duty stuff, and
exactly.
just endless.
So he wanted to have, instead of morale, you have dragon kill points, which you get for killing each of the different zombies. These tokens, which we don't have the tokens made yet, but you will see on any of the different cards. No, this is the front Scouters one.
There should be a dragon. Some monsters are there.
Monsters.
We don't have all of our whole deck here.
Yeah,
but it is done.
So this says that you can spend your KPTs, which are kill point tokens, here, and based off of the number that you spend, you will get bigger and better things. So if you look at one of the monsters, like this one, you'll see that on defeat, it will give every single person in the party some number of KPTs. KPTs can be spent individually to get benefits for yourself, so not everyone has to spend them to refresh at the same time. So this is us experimenting with a very different way.
So it'll be like individual morale refreshing. So if you want to refresh your powers, you can decide when you want to spend your own KPT instead of...
Yeah.
Since you're gaining them individually.
No, the one thing that's really interesting about this deck is that this means that you cannot lose due to your morale tech hitting 0. What will happen is eventually you'll get overwhelmed by the monsters and you will just die that way. So this is definitely a fight-heavy battle deck, and it's super cool.
Can you talk about the elites and super elites as well?
Sure. So you're going to start out and you're going to fight waves of regular zombies who, incidentally, when you kill the zombies, they go back into the deck. So you're going to see the same ones again and again. But eventually, there's going to be some elites that come out. So, hey, isn't that great? And this is a 20-round battle. So the elites come out...
in normal mode, one comes out at round 7, and the super elite is 15. On hard mode, it's just a few extra encounters, but throughout, you're basically going to be encountering 20 different monsters, or some of the same monsters, because the normal ones you shuffle back in for most of them. But by the end, in round 20, the Lich will come out, and those monsters will still be out. So,
and incidentally, the super elites, oh my gosh, they are brutal at the half.
They're pretty much a boss in of themselves.
Yes.
And even the elites are near boss level. So
by all means, this one is going to be a very fun one, and we had a lot of fun coming up with the different types of undead for that one.
And there are 5 elites and 5 super elites, so the variety will be there. There's only 20% chance you get the same one in any given game.
My favorite zombie in this is the gnomish bomber who explodes himself.
Yeah, and he damages all the other monsters. But he doesn't come back if he blows himself up. Back.
I'm going to do now this one over here because these are the 2 that we are still developing the most.
Yes.
This is the... Cave Lobster, I think, is our working title.
Underground City, the underground crab.
So, the absolutely awesomely horrific creature that's sitting there on the back. You and your party are
Wow.
going to be hunting through 4 different levels, and each level has its own guardian protecting the way down further. Now, this is a timed deck where every round of combat, every card that you encounter is going to be ticking down that timer, and if you don't get there in time, bad things happen.
Morale and time will be linked in of itself. So yeah,
Yeah, so every time you take a pause to rest, you're
losing time.
literally taking up your
Every
time.
card you encounter, you're also losing time.
So you're going to have to make decisions. Do we advance to the next level now, later? And what's really cool is this card here. So we have the Guardians who block off each of the tiers, but these treasures. So as you go deeper into the caves, the treasures become more powerful.
Yes.
You can get access to treasures starting at the first tier, and the party can only have so many treasures with them. We're doing 2 right now, and so...
Oh, 3.
3.
So it's maximum 3.
Maximum 3. Hardcore mode is 2.
Yes.
Yes. And then as you go down from one tier to the next, you'll have opportunities to possibly upgrade some of your treasures.
Yes.
We're still talking about that, about if you
The
get to
treasures,
automatically upgrade
if you
one
gain a
or not.
treasure in level 1, it will have the level 1 effects, but if you gain that treasure in level 2, it would be the level 2
Two
strength.
effects. Yes.
So, but you have the option to level them up through some events,
Yep.
or just get new treasures. And if you ever get one and you have 3, you can cycle one out. Or they all have sacrifice effects. You can use them in combat if you know you're going to be getting one
Yeah.
rather soon again.
So this is going to be a really cool new thing, because who doesn't like getting cool loot? And especially loot that you have to use it in order to fit in more cool loot. Maybe that's going to be a tough decision for some parties. But that's
Yeah.
fine. We're excited about how this one's going to turn out.
And for the hard mode for that one, there will be extra encounters and a few extra events and traps you have to do each floor. So,
Yes.
and also less treasure. Yeah.
So be prepared for that. Next up, let's do this beautiful dragon, the 100-eyed dragon. 100 is an estimate. It's probably more than that, but they are also known as sky gods. Now, this deck is really interesting because this is one continuous big boss battle where you're just fighting non-stop. And we did a quick little preview along the way of how strong the boss is, but just as a reminder...
Do you want to show the layout of how it will look?
Yes.
Yeah, we can
totally
do that
will.
because...
Okay, so we're going to move these
So we're
out of the
gonna move
way.
these out of the way.
So here's the boss. Has 999 health in 5-player mode, or several hundred health, 200 health per player. We have a setup card to help you make sure you get everything ready. A morale card, which if you look here, here's the morale tracker.
Yep.
You'll note that unlike in the base game of Catharsis, there are only 2 different thresholds, at 5 and at 3, and those are going to be important. Now, you'll have your boss. Attached to the boss are a whole bunch of boss events. So these boss events are all very negative things that can come up along the way that sometimes the boss's attacks will trigger. So this will be shuffled and placed here off to the side. We have also the ship events. Now, ship events are mostly good things. Some of them are neutral, some of them are not quite as good. And so these ship events, you're going to shuffle them. They go here on the other side of the boss, because every round after the player's attack, you will draw a ship event to see what happens. The boss, I'm going to move the morale tracker up
Yes.
here. The boss always has the eye attack. And so this is their second attack, not their first. Their first is one of 4 different boss attacks here, based off of which one you randomly start with. The other 3 will go underneath. And for these, you'll be rolling 3d6. You'll add up the values, and then based off of the roll, it will do different things. When
Sorry.
you were trying to go for the 1?
Yeah.
If you don't roll an 18, you'll put a dragon token on this. This is right now our burn counters, but we'll have dragon tokens where you will add 3 to your roll each time. So you're getting closer and closer to getting to the 18. When you get to the 18, you'll see, like this one says, deal 5, 10, 16, 21, or 27 damage to the party. And then replace this. And then when you replace it, the next attack comes into play. And here we have the infinite gaze. And so each of these things has its own theme and flavoring, and they do horrible things. Now, when the boss attacks, it will do 1 attack here, and it will also do its eye attack. The boss attack, you will know at the start of the round. You'll roll for it, and then do all of your actions so you have a chance to respond. The eye attack is always a random effect that you cannot prepare for. We also have allies, and these ones don't have the flavor text on them. I've since made it since we got these made. But all the allies give you a choice between two different positive things that can help out the party. Usually one is helping out with the tools, the weapon, defense, and utility, or something cool for the party. And those will get shuffled and placed over here on the side. And I mentioned those tools. So there's 3 different types of tools. There's defense, there's utility, and there's weapons, which here's me trying to separate them out. Defense, utility, and weapons. The weapons there's 3 of each of these, and for the weapons, they're all things that can deal damage and weaken the boss in one shape or form. The utility have 3 different ones. Cabin helps you pull more allies out to help the party. The engine helps you avoid some of the attacks, and the medic bay helps the party to heal up. And finally, we have our defenses, things that help to protect against damage or reduce the roll values of the dragon attacks. You will get one of each of these 3 tools at random, and they will go at the bottom. And then each round, you can choose which ones to dedicate dice to. Your allies can also be assigned to these in order to help reduce the total number of dice it takes to activate any one of the tools.
And ship events generally affect the weapons, the defense, and utility, and the allies, correct?
Yeah. So if you look, let's zoom in here on the medic bay, and down at the bottom, you'll see that each effect has 3 different levels. So the medic bay has level 1, 2, and 3. It takes 3 upgrade counters to go from level 1 to level 2, another 3 to go from 2 to 3. So and it tells you here, when you're at 3 upgrade counters, 6 upgrade counters, and the effects get stronger over time. The same goes for the weapons, same goes for defense. So you're going to have ship events that offer you the choice between something good or getting an upgrade counter on your tools that'll make the fight a whole lot easier as you go along.
And ship events, when do they come out?
Ship events happen every single round after the players finish their attack.
So before the enemy attacks.
Yep. So the flow for this is going to be you roll to see what the boss attack will be, but you don't resolve it. So you know what's going to come up. You do all of your attacks and abilities. You then resolve a ship event. You then resolve the boss attack, resolve the eye attack,
Yes.
and then you have a chance to spend morale to refresh.
And sometimes the boss's attack or the eye attack will make you draw from the boss effects.
Yep.
And sometimes those have monsters, but other effects as well.
It is entirely possible
take a look
here.
at some of those?
Yeah. So here we have a detached eyeball falls off from the dragon during the fight and attacks the party. And we have the dragon egg that sits there and does nothing for a while until it hatches.
Yes.
We have turbulence. Here, dragonlets. So small little dragons that will deal 1 damage to each player, but because they're so nimble, all your attacks targeting them do 2 less damage. We have the sentient cloud, which actually caused Art and me to lose our last game against the dragon because it causes you to have a 50% mischance on your attacks, and then that mischance gets weaker as the cloud takes more damage. Each of these can sit out in addition to the boss. You can have no more than 2 other monsters, only one in 1 or 2 player games, who will sit there and attack the party or bother you in some way, shape, or form. And man alive, these are horrible things because you're splitting your damage and you still need to do damage to the boss. And these all have really bad effects.
But sometimes like the boss will get bonus effects like armor, reduced damage, and that may be the best time to attack the monsters when you can't hit the boss or something, or when there's a mischance, because the boss's attacks that affect him, such as armor and mischance, does not affect the monsters. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So, yay!
So overall, really fun.
Yeah. So we are super excited about this. We've play tested this one just 2 times recently, and we won one, and we got close on the second, and then got absolutely torn to shreds.
And that was on the hard mode, because the hard mode you have no weapons, defense, or utility.
Yes.
So
we've, as a result of our playtest with the hard mode, we've actually amped up the difficulty on some of the cards. So be prepared for a nice, long, brutal battle.
And maybe hard mode is the only option if you have a really small table.
There's a possibility. We're not ruling that out. Next up, because I can simply reach it, is this, the Murder Mystery deck. This one I am super excited about. So there are 5 potential bosses that you are going to be hunting down. Each of these bosses is a horrible beast of a boss. Now, you don't know which one it's going to be. You're trying to determine
player
which
counts represent 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 players.
Yeah, definitely should say
Just
that.
so
A
you
single player is not trying to do 75 damage.
Yes.
So this is meant to be a challenge deck for a group of people. This one, I've gotten to playtest multiple times, and every single time, it's a fun challenge. So you'll note that each card has 4 sides to it, as well as the content in the center. And we've talked about this during some of the other updates, but I get to show you now. Here is a card, so the Unexpected Discovery card. You can see that on each side, it has certain traits of the killer highlighted. Now, this doesn't matter when you draw the card. When you draw the card, you read the text here in the center and resolve the effect. On occasion, it will tell you that you get to investigate a card. When you investigate, you're going to create a second pile off to the side. The second pile, now you care about what's on the side of the cards, not in the center. And when you investigate, you get to choose which of the 4 sides you want to have as being the active side in the investigation. The sides are designed so that when I add another card, no matter what, I can line them up really nicely.
That's
Art did a
awesome.
great job with the layout, so I like that you said that it's awesome.
Yeah.
Huh, what's going on there? If you look this way, you can very easily see how many of each trait the boss has. So this is the killer has 3 vigilance, 1 noble, and 1 crazed so far. And as we go along, we're going to build this up more and more. But more than that too, we can see the different effects. So this says if the boss has at least 5 or more of the stalker trait, this extra effect comes in. This says if it's stalker 4 or higher, noble 4 or higher, or noble 2 or less.
And these all apply to every single one of these do apply to the final boss as long as
Exactly.
you hit those thresholds.
Yeah, so let's say
Wow.
this was as far as we got and we were ready to fight the boss, which you actually have to go through the entire deck. Then the boss would be the vigilant boss because it has these 3 blue. And if we look over here at our bosses, here's the one, and you can tell it's vigilant because it has vigilance on the side. So, hey, let's look at this horrible vigilant guy.
Go ahead, take a look.
So here he has 60 health for a 3-person party, 140 otherwise, or goes up to 140. His attack, you get to choose. Does he deal 5 damage to all but 1 player, or all players discard a power and exhaust another? Ooh. Neither is a good thing. But here's this other special. He has armor, quite a bit of it, and another special, which says this combat, the enemy attack phase comes before the player attack phase. So if you say, hey, we'll take that 5 damage to almost everyone, that means that most people in your party will have 1 card remaining. And if you start to go down this all players discard a power and exhaust another, you're going down that path probably all the way.
I noticed the boss has an on-defeat effect. Why is that?
So every single boss has an on-defeat that if you kill them, they will probably do something horrible to defeat you. If the boss kills your party in the act of defeating you, you have still lost.
So in hard mode, when you defeat a boss, does this apply as well since you're fighting all 5 bosses?
Yeah, so let's talk about the hard mode. For the hard mode, you're going to encounter several different cards, so that way you will get some effects here, possibly attached to the boss. So managing your investigation stack is going to be important. But in the hard mode, you actually have to fight all 5. It's actually a cabal of 5 different killers who are working together. And good luck. The odds of you surviving it all is going to be definitely a hard mode challenge.
This deck does have more morale, and I think it doesn't have like a +2 to refresh like most of the new decks.
Correct.
So
the morale for this deck is different because it focuses more on things that last for a turn effect as opposed to multiple.
do the morale effects infect the investigation?
Actually,
the
yes.
investigation.
If you look here, this is our current morale track. It's currently at 25 and goes down to 1. We're still playing around with the numbers. We may reduce the total morale down.
We also have a side here.
Yep.
Sorry, there's a magnetic tracker on the bottom. Yes.
Okay, so right now it does some damage, and then it has some effects that for the next enemy attack phase, you will take more damage. This here at Morale 5, prevent damage abilities don't work that round, which is really unfortunate. And then Morale 1 is you treat each trait as though they are one higher, which suddenly could give your boss a whole bunch of extra.
Yeah, right at the
abilities that
end,
you
right
don't
when
want.
you're about to either win or lose.
Yep. So we are trying to keep it more focused on you managing the investigation. I've played this with some friends. I play it with my parents and some of their friends, and everyone likes the feel of the investigation and the thrill of the hunt.
Yes. We haven't tested hard mode yet, so we'll see
Nope.
how that goes.
We're gonna see if we can actually survive.
Maybe it's not
it.
even possible.
Yeah.
As long as it's like 20% success or 10%,
We'll call it
that's
victory.
good enough,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay.
It's got to be challenging.
Oh, it's gonna be very challenging.
And what
So-
else do we got?
Let's do Hidorian's deck next.
Oh, Hydorians, okay. So these would be the 5 base bosses.
Yep. So for
this-
Hidorian's deck, this is an interesting one because we talked about the time travel and the paradox. So as you go along, you gain more paradox, and as your morale wears down, more paradox accumulates, which is never a good thing for this. You are going eventually at the very end of this against the Paradox boss avatar. Holy cow, this guy is going to do a lot of bad things to you if you've built up a lot of paradox. But if you can keep your paradox low, this should be fairly easy. The problem is keeping your paradox low means that you're going to be doing some horrible things to yourself along the way. So let me see, we have our setup and our paradox effects. So
So is Paradox you gain more with more players in it?
usually, yes. And
Because I
that's
just
why-
noticed its health, so I was
Yeah.
just... Yeah.
So here are the 5 paradox conditions. Again, we talked about this a little bit on the write-up part, but here it is so you guys can see where they are now. So for example, like this effect here. So before you enter one of the 5 different worlds, you say, oh, here's this thing. It says, set this card aside and choose a morale value at least 6 lower than your current morale. When you complete this world, compare your morale to the predicted morale. For each point you are off, the party gains 5 paradox. So this is you saying, hey, this is where we should be. Are we okay with that?
Yeah.
6 morale lower is a lot lower. You don't have a ton to spend. Others of them are based off of the dice that you have, the powers that you have exhausted, or which power specifically you have exhausted, and there's 1 or 2 more on top of that. So you're going to draw one of these at random, and then you will enter into one of the different worlds. So for example, this is the labyrinth world that we have. And so each world consists of 5 different cards. I only have 3 of the labyrinth. Let me switch down to the airship because... Nope, it looks like I have 3 of each. 1 second. Arena.
They're, yeah.
There we go.
Yep.
I have 1 of the 5. Yay.
They're labeled on the back, I think most of them.
Not in
They
the-
will be labeled,
yes, they
but
will be
some of these are
Yes.
labeled, yep.
So in each world, there will be 1 that is the boss, and that always goes on the bottom of the stack.
Yes.
And then the other 4 will be shuffled and put at random
So you only encounter one world
at a time.
at a time, okay.
So you'll have 1 paradox effect that goes along with the world, and so that's always going to be random. You're going to make your way through the 4 cards. You will then fight the boss at the end.
End of that world.
Each of the bosses have boosts that are based off of your level of paradox. So as you build up more paradox, the mini bosses become way harder. And then at the end of that, you have to fight the actual paradox boss. So
Which is the avatar from the previous deck, correct?
it's a avatar of paradox.
Oh, okay.
Which, to be fair, the
different
avatars
avatar.
are
Yeah.
all just brutal and they all look
Gotcha.
weird. So, yep. And then if you can kill off the avatar at the end,
How many worlds do you encounter?
you'll encounter 5 worlds. So
So you
each-
encounter every world.
You'll encounter
Okay.
every world. You'll encounter all 5 of these paradoxes.
Is there a hard mode yet, or we're
We haven't figured out the hard mode, but the hard mode is probably going to be that you gain paradox at a faster
or
rate.
maybe a secret 6 world or something?
We will see.
Yeah.
Depends on how many cards we can fit into the box.
Yes.
So
Makes sense. That
Okay.
would be cool, though.
let me take all of
Let
this.
us know.
And then the last one that we're going to show today is one of our Saga decks. And this one, I have a special place in my heart for because it was created by, the idea came from a friend of ours, Wes, who loves flamingos. He always wears flamingo Hawaiian shirts. But he wanted to do a deck that represented him and his friends. So a flamingo, a duck, and a Raven, which you can see a little bit of the Raven down there. But this is a narrative deck, so this is actually one of those choose your adventure through the whole
Much
path.
like Valentina, the Avatar, and the Dragon Lich.
This deck here has 3 different paths in it, and each one is pretty darn challenging no matter what you do. The goal is that you're going to make it through, but unlike in other decks where we have morale or the paradox going on or even the tokens, this one has a unique thing because Art talked with West and they came up with eggs. And I was like, sure, that's a thing. So the party has 10 yellow and 10 pink eggs. And every time you want to spend a morale to refresh, you consume one of your eggs instead. The story is that the eggs are highly addictive, and you are trying to figure out what is the source of the eggs and can you get rid of the addiction before you completely lose it. As a result, there is a lot of awesome flavor text, and you are going to read it all, please, because that'll hurt my heart otherwise. Oh, this is backwards.
Yeah, so you can flip it over if you want to get
Cool.
directly from the front.
Oh. Okay, so we
Sometimes
have...
when a deck's played in order, I like to play them from face side up.
Totally fair. So we have flavor text. We have stuff that helps to get you get all the cards set up. Here's the setup that talks about the eggs. There are special benefits that you can get by spending certain eggs or certain combinations of eggs. So if you need that extra oomph in a battle, there's ways to do that. And when you are fighting a lot of the monsters, so here's one of the early ones, a hungry bear. You fight the monster, and at the end, you will find that many of the animals that you encounter will be willing to join you if you are willing to give up some of your eggs. That was one of the other things that Art and West worked out, is that they wanted to have lots of companions that could join the party along the way if you're willing to pay the cost. So this can lead to some very interesting menagerie-style adventuring, but you can see that here with the Hungry Bear, it has an effect, and it gives you something ongoing that you can get.
Yeah, this one gives 2 armor for the round, so that could be really good if you know a lot of damage is coming through.
Exactly. Be careful because some of them do require extra eggs in order to help you out further, but...
I just want to get to another monster here.
Yeah.
There's one. And as you can see, like with the elk here, not all of the monsters will have... You can recruit them.
Correct.
But a majority of them, correct?
Most of them you can.
Yes.
Like this one, the foxes.
So this one, the party may give the foxes 1 yellow egg. For the next 2 fights, all players may adjust 1 die by up to 1 each combat round, which is really nice, especially if you're having trouble hitting your abilities.
Exactly. So there are so many different things.
Even the events interact with eggs, too, some of them.
Yep.
Yep.
And some of this gets a little bit bizarre, but
It's
it
fun
all
deck.
makes sense. It all makes sense in the end. In addition, the bosses of this are the flamingo, the duck, and the raven.
Yeah.
So just be warned, each of the 3 paths will have you fighting a totally different boss battle, because we did 3 different styles of incorporating all 3 of the birds.
So
in one way,
this right
shape, or
here
form.
is the final encounter of the first path, or do you still continue? Because I see it says boss.
It is a boss, but this is not the end
In the
of the first
boss.
path. This
Yes.
actually continues on. So
In the
each path you'll encounter about 20 plus cards. Yeah.
in the hard mode is basically a fight. You go down the hardest path. Is that correct?
Yes. So
Path
the
C.
third path will take you into a absolutely brutal battle. So at the very back here, other than the final super ultimate boss, which I
Flamingo. Oh.
this guy says that you are going to fight, but you have to see
card
card 14,
14,
which was the boss duck
The
here.
duck.
He comes back and is fighting alongside.
Oh.
And then you have a super ultimate boss who's sitting behind all of that, who's doing horrible things to you.
So a double fight into another.
Yes.
Into another fight right away.
And we have one where you actually fight the raven, the flamingo, and the duck all together. And that makes things a little bit more interesting because you can also only attack one of them per round, and it changes each round. So,
And if that one's not even the hardest path, so that
is
must
not
mean
even
that.
So, hey, possibilities abound. So anyways, this is 6 of the boss decks. We wanted to show you guys this. like I said, we'll do one shortly where he's.
And just
going
to
do-
mention the seventh one is designed by the same person who did Sophia, Get the Tables. It will also be a choose your own adventure deck. So both sagas will be a choose your own adventure style deck. So
Yep.
we will eventually talk about that, but we thought we would get this out here, and
Yeah.
and he's done a great job. It's mostly finished. I just haven't had the time to properly play through it, and I don't know enough to talk about it yet. So once
Yeah.
once we do, we will definitely add that on.
Yep.
And I'll be doing a video later talking about 7 of the 10 characters, except for the 2 god tier characters and the drinking girl. We'll mention them and how they're going to
Our
play.
Booze Maiden.
But I don't. The booze maiden.
Yeah.
But we don't have the cards for them. But we've played all 7. We played 7 of the 10 characters yet, and they've played really well and all completely different and unique. So
Yes.
it's been fun.
Cool. Well, thank you guys for hanging out with us, and we will see you soon.
Cool. Take care, guys. Bye.